The moment. It is a curious thing how a local vote in a town like Ashton in Makerfield can balloon into a matter of national destiny, yet the heavens suggest precisely that phenomenon this June. The event chart for the close of polls is suffused with the light of a Gemini sun, signifying a duality and a frantic exchange of information, but the heavy lifting of the moment is done by the angles. With the ascendant at 3 degrees Capricorn, the mood is serious, grounded, and concerned with the state apparatus itself. This is no ordinary midterm check, but a structural reckoning. What strikes the observer immediately is the tightrope the nation is walking. Here we have Uranus, in Gemini quincunx the ascendant by a mere fraction of a degree. This aspect speaks of a sudden, jarring adjustment to the public persona. The electorate is volatile, and the result will likely deliver a shock to the established order that polite society did not see coming. It is a picture of a disruptive correction. Simultaneously, Neptune in Aries squares the ascendant, throwing a fog of confusion or idealism over the outcome. The public may not immediately grasp the full reality of what they have voted for. There is a propaganda war or a vapor of rhetoric obscuring the hard ground. The cyclic index sits at a high 806.6, a level of charge approaching dispersal. The atmosphere is electric, not static. The collective tension has been wound tight, and this by-election serves as the release valve. Tarot imagery overlaying this moment suggests the tower. The structure is being struck by lightning, not necessarily to destroy it, but to clear away the rot. The public mood, symbolized by the moon in Leo, craves a ruler, a strong figure to lionize, yet the ground of Capricorn demands practical results, not mere pageantry. What it touches. When we turn our gaze to the United Kingdom's founding chart of 1801, the picture sharpens into a narrative of systemic friction and enforced destiny. Transiting Saturn sits in Aries, conjunct the nation's true node. This is a heavy signature of fate meeting necessity. Saturn represents the state apparatus, borders, and austerity. Its conjunction to the node implies that the direction the country must take is one of contraction and difficult discipline. The easy road is closed off. More immediately confrontational is transiting Mars in Taurus, squaring the UK's Saturn in the 12th house. Mars here is the angry worker, the strike, the industrial unrest simmering in the background, and Saturn is the government's restriction. The square denotes open friction. The government's rigid policies are actively provoking the wrath of the populace or the industrial sector. This by-election occurs precisely as this frustration boils over. Furthermore, transiting Uranus squares the UK natal Pluto. This is a generational aspect of profound upheaval. It signals the clash between the established plutocracy or deep state power structures and the radical forces of change. It suggests that the result in Makerfield is not merely about a seat in Parliament, but about a challenge to the very architecture of power in Westminster. The secondary figure in this drama, Andy Burnham, finds himself unusually plugged into this national grid. The synastry between the UK chart and his own reveals a trine between the UK's Mars and Burnham's moon. The collective anger and drive of the nation finds a resonant emotional vessel in Burnham. He does not need to manufacture passion, he channels it. However, the transits to his own chart show a man under intense personal pressure. With the Sun square his natal Pluto, this is a crucible moment for his authority. He must navigate a power struggle that threatens to consume him if he missteps. Saturn is also squaring his Venus, suggesting that his popularity and his common touch are being tested by the cold, hard reality of political limitation. He is the king in the north, who the public wishes to save them, yet the stars suggest his path is strewn with the debris of the failing center. How it rolls forward. The story does not end when the ballot boxes are sealed. The celestial currents show this is a catalyst, not a conclusion. As we move into July and August, the outer planet alignments suggest a dramatic acceleration of the tensions highlighted in June. Most significantly, we are approaching the solar eclipse on the 12th of August at 20 degrees Leo. Eclipses are the wild cards of the mundane world, often correlating with the fall of leaders or the sudden exposure of hidden realities. This eclipse falls in the sign of kingship and rulership. Given that the by-election in June activated a crisis of leadership through the Sun square Pluto, this August eclipse likely acts as the executioner of that timeline. Whatever prime ministerial survival strategy is being plotted in June will likely be swept away by Leo's solar darkness in August. The period through late July sees Uranus trine Pluto and Jupiter opposite Pluto. These are massive, heavyweight aspects involving the planets of revolution, power, and expansion. The Jupiter-Pluto opposition suggests an extreme excess of ambition or financial overreach that meets a hard wall. Combined with Uranus trine Pluto, the forces of revolution and established power reach a kind of temporary agreement to tear down the old middle ground. We are looking at a radical reshaping of the political landscape. The tarot overlay here points to death, not physical cessation, but the inevitable turning of the wheel. An old order is passing. The government that sits in Westminster in the spring will not be the same entity by the autumn. Watch the summer months for a sudden collapse of consensus or a dramatic cabinet resignation that precipitates a wider crisis. Summary. This by-election acts as the seismic trigger for a profound crisis of leadership and state authority in the United Kingdom, marking the end of a political chapter through a volatile public verdict. First, there is the sudden leadership shock, a jarring, unexpected correction to the government's stability caused by Uranus quincunx the ascendant in the event chart, creating results that defy conventional polling. Second, we see industrial and social unrest with strikes and public anger intensifying as transiting Mars squares the UK's natal Saturn, turning economic hardship into direct political confrontation. Third, we encounter the Burnham dilemma, where Andy Burnham's position as a vessel for public anger clashes with his own limitations due to Saturn squaring his Venus, making him a pivotal but pressured figure in the coming narrative. Fourth, the August climax, a decisive moment for the Prime Minister's survival arriving with the solar eclipse in Leo on the 12th of August, which likely finalizes the leadership crisis triggered by this vote. And finally, a structural transformation, a radical reshaping of the political status quo, driven by the rare alignment of Uranus trine Pluto and Jupiter opposite Pluto in late July. The picture is one of a nation unwilling to tolerate the old austerity, moving inexorably toward a summer where the cards are reshuffled with ruthless suddenness.